21 days left until America decides who will be the next leader of our country. And in this election, Black voters could have a huge impact. Tonight, we explore the voter turnout of the past and the future as local leaders are ensuring the community of color makes their voices heard. It was only 5 decades ago Black men and women were fighting for their right to vote.
I come here to urge every person under the sound of my voice to go to the polls on the 3rd of November and vote your convictions.
It wasn't until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that legally gave Black voters the means to challenge restrictions and improve voter turnout. Since then, the Black vote has become increasingly important. According to the Roper Center, in the past 5 presidential elections, an average of 91% of Black voters voted Democrat and 7.6% voted for the Republican candidate.
It is a huge portion of the Democratic coalition, right? African Americans make up an enormous part of the coalition that can deliver victory for the Democratic Party. We saw this in the primaries, right? In which Joe Biden basically was catapulted to the nomination in South Carolina, right? Based on African American vote.
Christopher Williams, an assistant professor of political science at the University of Arkansas, Little Rock, has studied elections for years. He predicts a sizable turnout amongst Black voters in 2020.
Obviously, as a white man, I don't try to speak for the African American or Black community, but we have seen different issues arise as being important in the African American and Black community.
I can't breathe.
The killing of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police was just one of several instances of racial injustice that have been brought to the forefront during 2020. The poignant cries for justice have, in a sense, been a social awakening in this election year. Protest erupted across the nation.
Together we stand.
Here in Little Rock, demonstrators took to the streets marching for change. Mayor Frank Scott Jr. even joining in. This may have been one of the moments, regardless of race, Americans knew they had to do something.
This anger, this frustration, this sense that we're not being heard creates this angst. And what do I do with all of this energy? So that's the idea. It's taking it. It's not denying it. It's not trying to make light of it. It's taking it and let's use it in productive ways. Community leaders like Pastor Philip Pointer of St. Mark Baptist Church in Little Rock are using this momentum and putting it into solution-oriented action. Leading up to Election Day, he launched the Get Fired Up campaign to get people prepared to vote. On their website, you'll find things like important voting dates, information on candidates, registration status, and options for voting. And there are plenty of other people in the community diligently working on encouraging Blacks to vote.
Since 2014, we've just, have been steady progression in building that space for all things civic engagement here in the state of Arkansas.
Birthed after the Mike Brown tragedy in Ferguson, Missouri, Tamara Bates co-founded Rock Our Vote to get more young people involved in local politics and civic engagement. This year, national organizations like Woke Vote are partnering with Rock Our Vote and other local organizations on the ground already doing the work.
Woke Vote is nonpartisan, and we don't support any candidates. We are specifically about making sure our people or minority people or Black people are getting out to vote. We don't care who you vote for. Our belief is if minority populations or Black populations are educated on the voting process and activated, they're going to vote in their best interest. We have a history of being oppressed so much to the point we distrust the very mechanisms that could potentially help us. They weren't built to help us, but they could help us if we were to utilize their power.
Power that'll be behind each ballot as voters head to the polls on November 3rd. In Little Rock, Marlisa Goldsmith, THV 11 News.